What's going on, guys? This is Vince with vshred.com, and today I'm going to show you guys how to fix your anterior pelvic tilt. Now, this is a question that I've been actually getting asked a lot just recently, so I thought I would make the video. So for those of you who don't understand exactly what this video is even about yet, let's first break down exactly what an anterior pelvic tilt is. So anterior pelvic tilt, let's just break it down by word. First word, anterior. Anterior literally means to the front. So basically, if you're talking about an anterior pelvic tilt, pelvic is your pelvis. It's your hip area. It's right around this area. It's this region, this big bone structure right here. That's your pelvis, okay? So if you have an anterior pelvic tilt, that is simply going to mean that your pelvis is tilted to the front, just like that. It is tilted down to the front, as if you were thinking about a shelf. Just think about the shelf being flat. Normally, this is what the shelf looks like. I'll actually fix my pants a little bit for you guys. A normal shelf right there, okay? If you have an anterior pelvic tilt, it's just going to be right here. It's going to look like you got a little bit of a booty. It's going to look like you got a little bit of a belly when you don't. And this is caused by a number of things. Most importantly, it's caused by muscle imbalances and weakened muscles and stretched muscles and tight muscles. So today what I'm going to do is basically show you 3 different exercises that you can do to help and basically fix your anterior pelvic tilt. But before I get into those 3 exercises, we basically have to explain why we're going to be doing these 3 exercises. So when it comes to an anterior pelvic tilt, like I said, your pelvis is tilted forward. So when it comes to maybe stretching or an exercise to do to strengthen muscles, what you guys are really needing to understand is that with an anterior tilt on your pelvis, this is typically from tightened hip flexors, because on the front of it you have this frontwards tilt. So this tilt is caused by these muscles being tight on the front end and lengthened on the back end. So what's happening is that you have your hip flexors on the front, and basically the reason that some of you probably could have an anterior pelvic tilt, and this is probably the reason why I have had an anterior pelvic tilt before in the past, is because of how you guys are hitting abs. A lot of times when guys are going to the gym or girls are going to the gym and they're going to hit abs, they're not actually targeting their abs. And this is a video that I've actually just recently made about how you're probably targeting your hip flexors when you're going to do abs and you're not actually hitting your abdominal muscles. And when you're hitting your hip flexors over and over and over again, what's going to happen is that you're going to then tighten those hip flexors. And if you're tightening your hip flexors, that is going to do nothing but make your pelvis tilt farther forward. Because with the frontwards tilt on your pelvis, that just means that these muscles here in front are pulling down on your pelvis. And when that muscle pulls down on your pelvis, that obviously is going to pull up on your hamstrings. And that could mean, so with a tight hip flexor, that means that you are going to then have, basically, it's an imbalance of muscles on each side of your leg. So that means that you have a weakened glute and hamstring muscles. So that you need to then focus on building the strength in the hamstring and glute muscle. Because a lot of times when people have an anterior pelvic tilt, they think that they need to stretch their hamstring. Well, don't do that, because if you have if your pelvis is tilted to the front, your hamstring on the back, your hamstring back here is already lengthened as much as it possibly can back here. So with your hamstring already lengthened, it has nowhere to go if you stretch it. Therefore, if you do stretch your hamstring to try to fix this, you're just going to make the issue worse. So you actually need to focus on building your strength in your glutes and your hamstrings, and then stretching your hip flexors or stretching your IT bands, and then also stretching your quad muscles. So with that, then comes the part on top of your pelvis. You have your abs on the front, and then you have your back muscles on the back, specifically your erector spinae. So when you are, again, trying to basically correct this frontwards tilt that you have with your pelvis, what you have right now, if you have anterior pelvic tilt, is you have your pelvis tilted downwards. That means that your abs are stretched out due to weak ab muscles, and then your back is actually very tight, and this can be from a number of things. This can be from the wrong kind of breathing, which I'm actually going to make a video about in the future. A lot of times when guys are going to the gym or girls are going to the gym and they're going to do these heavy lifts, they're not breathing right. They're breathing in and they're holding their breath and they're doing a rep and then they're letting the rep out. And this is something I'm going to make a video on in the future. So make sure you guys are subscribed for when I do release videos, more videos like this. But what you need to do is basically strengthen your ab muscles. And I'm not going to get into strengthening ab muscles in this video because I've made plenty of videos about it in the past. You can go check out a bunch of different videos of mine where you can strengthen your ab muscles. But I am going to show you, so basically what I am going to show you is an exercise to stretch the erector spinae, to stretch those muscles in your back. I'm going to show you an exercise to stretch those. I'm going to show you an exercise to strengthen your glute and hamstring muscles while stretching your hip flexors. And then I'm going to show you an exercise that really works on stretching your hip flexors. And then you know what? I'm going to throw one more in. I'm going to show you an exercise that will work on stretching the, basically help you calm down, because another issue when it comes to a forward tilt in your pelvis is that your IT bands are very tight. And your IT band is just a little ligament running on the side that you should be rolling out so that it doesn't stay so tight. So I'm going to show you an exercise that you can do to basically calm down your IT band, which will also help fix this anterior pelvic tilt. Now, to show you these exercises, I gotta go down to the ground. All right, first off, I'm gonna show you, like I said, you need to be strengthening your glutes and your hamstring muscles. So I'm going to show you a simple exercise that is going to then focus on basically strengthening those glutes and those hamstring muscles, because like I said, you don't want to stretch those. You want to focus on building the strength in those. That way, when this pelvic tilt happens, it's going to strengthen the muscles back here, therefore pulling this pelvis back down to start leveling it out. And then I'll also show you an exercise to help with this side, to loosen this side up, to also pull that down. And then also show you an exercise to stretch out your lower back so that you can keep, so basically all three of these exercises are going to work together to fix that pelvic tilt that you have going on. So first one, and this is possibly basic to some of you, this is basically just an exercise to strengthen those glute and hamstring muscles, and it is a hip thrust. And basically all you're gonna do is get down on the ground, laying flat with your feet, with your knees bent, and you're going to really focus on squeezing your glutes. That is the first and most important thing that you can do in this exercise. Squeeze your glutes, and you're going to drive your hips up to the ground, and you're going to squeeze, and you're going to hold it there for 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3, and back down. And then you're going to squeeze those glutes again. Squeeze them up. 1, 2, 3, back down. 1, 2, 3, back down. And this exercise is not only going to increase the strength of your glutes and your hamstrings, but it's also going to help stretch out those hip flexors when you're at the top of the motion, so it's going to work hand in hand with both of those. Then another great exercise that you can do to stretch the hip flexors is just a simple little lunge variation. So top half of my body is going to be out here, but all you need to do is focus on my lower half of my body right now. So what you're going to do is basically, this is called a 90-90. So you're going to go into where both of your knees are in a 90-degree angle. From here, what you're going to do is you're going to focus on squeezing the glute of the back leg. So I'm going to squeeze this glute muscle, and then all you're going to do from here is focus on driving forward just a little bit, and you should feel a deep stretch right here, and that is going to give you a good stretch and help lengthen that hip flexor in the front of your body. That is going to basically help even out that frontward tilt you have going on. And then back, and then again, flex that glute, forward. Back, flex that glute, forward. And don't forget to do it both sides. Back leg, squeeze the glute, forward. And this one's actually not as tight. I can feel it right now. This side is not as, this hip flexor is not as tight as my other one. Squeeze the glute, forward. And so that's a great exercise to stretch the hip flexor so that you can start lengthening this side so that the front of your pelvis can start raising up. And then when you're strengthening your glutes and your hamstrings, that is going to shorten the other side. And then also you can stretch your quads, and by stretching your quads, you can just roll those out on a foam roller. That's a great exercise. But I wanted to show you 2 more exercises. One was for the erector spinae. The erector spinae is basically just a series of muscles that is running down your back. And what you're going to do here, a lot of times when people have anterior pelvic tilt, they basically have lower back pain. And so this is a way to give that a good stretch so that you can relieve some of that back pain and help get rid of that pelvic tilt, so that you can basically give that part that's pulling up on the back of your pelvis, you can give it a little stretch so that it can start working its way back down. So all you're going to do here is you're going to get into child's pose, and this is basically just a crawling position, I guess you could say, with your knees and your hands on the ground. You're going to have your feet flat, and then from here, you're going to basically sit back on your feet, and then you're going to reach your palms forward, and you're basically going to focus on pushing your tailbone back, keeping your tailbone as far as back as possible, while pushing your fingers forward, and you want to create as much distance between your fingers and your tailbone as possible. So as much distance as possible. So feet flat. My feet are actually cramping right now. Feet flat, back on your butt, and you want to create as much distance as possible, sliding your hands out in front of you, as much distance as possible between your fingers and your tailbone. And just feel that stretch right there. And so creating that distance is going to give a good stretch on those erector spinae muscles in your back, and that will help, again, even out that pull forward tilt you have. And then last but not least, when it comes to an anterior pelvic tilt, this could mean that you have tight IT bands. Now, like I said, similar to rolling out the quad muscles, you can roll out your IT band, and that's just simply by putting a little foam roller on the side and rolling out this little part and just basically finding a tender spot and just sitting on it, moving it a little bit, find another tender spot, sitting on it, stuff like that. So, but another way to calm your IT band down is by doing adduction movements with your legs. And adduction movements, you can do this with a hip adduction machine at your gym. These are also the ones that are called, I like to call the no eye contact machines, and this is basically the ones that have the little pads in the middle, and you have to basically push them apart. So you're pushing, so you can either push them apart or you can push them together. What we're going to focus on here is we're just going to get into a little butterfly position, and then from here, all you're going to do is drive your knees down to the ground, giving yourself a nice deep stretch in here, and that is going to calm the outside. So from here, you're going to drive your knees down towards the ground. You can push them a little bit, push them down towards the ground, give yourself a nice deep stretch deep in here, and that is going to calm the IT band on the outside. So you just want to do that for 30-second holds. You can do 5 sets of 30 seconds, and that is going to basically calm down your IT band on the outside. Then again, allowing your pelvis to start leveling out. So I hope this video helped, guys. Like I said, you can do those exercises, and then you can also get a foam roller out and you can foam roll your quads, you can foam roll your IT band, you can foam roll even your back, and just make sure you're keeping your back rigid, you're keeping it tight on the foam roller, and you're finding those tender spots, and then you're sitting on those tender spots so that you can stretch them. So foam rolling is a great idea. But if you like this video, guys, please give it a thumbs up, and make sure you're commenting any questions that you have below. I actually got the idea of this video from one of the comments on my YouTube channel. So make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel so that you know when I'm posting new videos, because it could be your question that I'm answering. All right, guys, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.